Hello and welcome. Richardson Reed recently tagged me on Josh's Bagel book tag. And I did another one of Josh's foodie tags a while back, the muffin book tag. So this one is the bagel book tag, and it sounded like a lot of fun. I had to put some thought into these responses, so it was kind of fun to think about how I was going to respond to each of these bagel-themed book questions. So let's just dive into to the bagels, okay? First bagel is a plain bagel. A writer you feel does a great job with the same kind of work. So after giving this some thought, I decided to choose Haruki Murakami. This is 1Q84, the book 1Q84, but I've read several of his novels. I do intend to end up reading all of them eventually. I have not read one of his novels yet this year, but I do have one in mind coming up in the next few months to read, so I will get a Murakami in yet this year. But Haruki Murakami often gets criticized for, writing the same kind of thing over and over. And true, his books do take place in, his own universe, which is not quite like our own. So they are all very similar in that sense, in that they sort of inhabit the same world. But to me, each one stands alone, and I still enjoy them and intend to read my way through all of them eventually. So yeah, that's my plain bagel choice. Bagel 2, an everything bagel. A writer in which you own every work. Okay, so I, was thinking about this. I've mentioned on my channel before that I used to have quite a large library, but I did a massive sell-off about 8 or 9 years ago, because I was moving and I had a lot of other things going on, and I really needed to be able to live in a much smaller space than what I was used to. And so I had owned all of Charles Dickens' works, and I had owned all of E.M. Forster's works back then. Those are the ones I remember owning all of. Now I don't think I own anybody's works. I was going to say A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole, because I thought this was the only work of his that had ever been published. But when I went to fact check that, I found that that was not the case. The book, just pull it up here, he has another book that was published posthumously, both of his books posthumously. This one published in 1989, The Neon Bible. So I did not even know of this book's existence. So since John Kennedy O'Toole, I only own one of his works, then I don't think I own any author's complete works at this point, sadly. Number 3, Sesame Bagel. Your favorite Sesame Street or Muppets book. And I thought about this for a while and how I could respond to this, because I, as a young person, I grew up prior to this era. So I didn't experience these books as a child or young adult. So I don't think I have one. I don't think I have a response that I can give to the Sesame bagel, although I do think Sesame bagels are quite tasty. So the next bagel is a poppy bagel. So a short work that gives you an ecstatic high. So I don't know about an ecstatic high, but I decided to choose for this Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx. You can see it's tiny. This was actually originally published in the New Yorker, so it was published in, a magazine. The New Yorker actually wound up winning, what did they win? They won the National Magazine Award for Fiction the year this came out, which looks like 1998. But yeah, Brokeback Mountain, beautiful story, a lot of impact in this little story. It's since been made into a motion picture as well as an opera. The opera was actually, there was a production of Brokeback Mountain, the opera, in New York just recently. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to see it, so I missed my chance to see it recently. So yeah, anyway, I'm choosing this, even though I'm not sure ecstatic high is the right way to describe it, but beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful to me. So that was my choice for that. All right, so the next bagel is a salt bagel. A good book you had to put down in order to catch yourself. So I thought about this for a while too, and I think the last book that I just really mowed through was Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow by Yuval Noah Harari. This is a work of nonfiction, and it intersects two of my interests: history, the history of humankind, and future, the future of humankind. So futurism is a big interest of mine. So history and futurism combined in one book. You can see I made a lot of references to things I thought were important or relevant or interesting. So I got a lot from this book and enjoyed it very, very much. So next, number 6, garlic, a genre you just cannot get enough of. So for fiction, science fiction is my go-to genre if I'm reading genre fiction. So science fiction. For nonfiction, that would be history. History in lots of different things I'm interested in. So broad category of history, broad category of science fiction. Number 7, Onion, a book that may cause you to get stares, but you enjoy anyway. Well, I thought about this one for a while too. I think because I read off of a priority list, and I think a lot of times people think I'm more really more stuffy than I actually am. So recently I read the Mussorgsky Riddle. This is a paranormal fantasy book. So paranormal fantasy, urban fantasy. Sometimes this surprises people that I like this type of genre, but I just enjoyed this so much. There's actually a couple of more works in this Mussorgsky Riddle kind of work. It's by Darren Kennedy's the author, and I do intend to read the other works in that series as well. But yeah, I think I get surprised. People get surprised that for some reason, I don't know why. Do I look like I'm not a person that might like paranormal fantasy or urban fantasy? I don't know, but yeah, I'll go with that. All right, number 8, Cinnamon Raisin, a sweet but thought-provoking work. Yeah, I thought about this for a while too, and as I was thinking about it, everything I could think of that was sweet was actually bittersweet, and I don't really think to me, that's not how I'm interpreting cinnamon raisin. Cinnamon raisin bagel to me is not a bittersweet bagel. So sweet, sweet yet thought-provoking. I decided to go with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, because it's a sweet story, right? Everybody loves Alice, but yet very thought-provoking. The material, the book itself is just so quotable, so relatable to so many aspects of life outside of just taking it as a sweet story for children. So I'll go with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland for Cinnamon Raisin Bagel. Number 9, French Toast Bagel. A writer you are happy to have discovered this year. So I've discovered several writers this year that I just that I'm so glad that I did. One is Raymond Chandler. I read The Big Sleep earlier this year. Hard-boiled detective fiction from the mid-20th century. So glad to have discovered Raymond Chandler. I will be reading more of Raymond Chandler coming up. Then another one, Stanislaw Lem, the Polish science fiction writer. I was just going to call up that cover for you. I read Solaris earlier this year, first work from Stanislaw Lem that I've ever read. So we'll be having some more Stanislaw Lem coming up in the future. And then I also, for nonfiction, I just was going to see. I don't think I have the cover called up, but Richard J. I don't think I have that cover available. Richard J. Evans wrote a 3-volume history of the Third Reich that I read volume 1 of, The Coming of the Third Reich, earlier this year, and I will be reading the other 2 volumes of that history. So I'm so glad to have discovered that history writer. So, yeah. I'll go with those for French toast. So next we have egg bagel. Egg bagel. So I'm a vegan, so I won't be eating too many egg bagels, but here we go. A work of nonfiction that caused you to form or switch a position. So for that, I decided to go with The Liberation of Life by Charles Birch and John B. Cobb Jr. This book is out of print now, but back when I was in college, this book was part of a course that I took, and it really changed how I viewed religion and spirituality and connection to the world, ecology. It was just one of those books that I read, in my formative years that really just changed my views on lots and lots of things. I reread this last December, so I will link below to the chat I did on that at that time. So, yeah, The Liberation of Life. All right, so next we have Rainbow Bagel, an LGBTQIIAP plus work that made you think. So let me just call up here if I can get the cover. Here we go. Get it open, my Kindle. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This book is just a wonderful, beautiful, sort of, talk about bittersweet, not sweet really, just bitter. Doesn't end all that well for Giovanni or for the other guy in the book. The book it concerns a young man in Paris, an American living in Paris, who has just proposed to a woman but meets an Italian bartender by the name of Giovanni and has an affair with him and is presented with which direction he's going to take in his life. And, he has to choose, and I won't give away how it ends, but yeah, Giovanni's Room, I will go with that. Beautiful, beautiful work by James Baldwin. Number 12, a Bialy Bagel, a fairy tale you feel people need to read in its original form. So I thought about this. I couldn't think of it, because I don't think I know enough about fairy tales. So, but I did learn what a Bialy Bagel was, and I lived in New York City for 4 years and cannot believe, and I lived in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, and I cannot believe I did not ever learn what a Bialy Bagel was. So now I've got a mission to have a Bialy, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Bialy Bagel. So yeah, that's in my future. A Bialy Bagel is in my future. Okay, number 13. What is your favorite kind of bagel as well as your favorite bagel condiment? My favorite bagel is just a plain toasted bagel or an onion bagel, either one, but really I can just plain bagel, toasted though, and with vegan butter on it. Just sort of plain and simple. That's just a really tasty breakfast for me. So I will go with plain bagel with vegan butter. Then number 14, bagel tray, who do you tag? So I think Richardson Reed's tagged a lot of the people that I would have tagged. CR Flames fan, if you see this tag and you think it's interesting and you haven't done the tag, then I'd be interested to hear your responses, and really anybody else who finds the tag fun and hasn't done the tag, feel free to do it and let me know that you've done it, and I will take a look at your responses as well. So I think I will close the Josh's Bagel book tag with that, and now I'm hungry for bagels. So until next time, take care. Bye.